Well, you can't accuse me of only talking about the good teams on this show because today I'm going to talk about the Angels and the White Sox. Yikes.
You are Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast where we talk about all of Major League Baseball. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 of bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit fanduel.com to get started. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And you could follow me. I'm same handle for Instagram, and I am at Sully Baseball on what's it called? Blue Sky now. And I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on the Instagrams. We got a couple people in the live chat right now. TubeU says howdy. Right back at you. And Daniel Berry Sports Highlights, who's an everyday Sully, he says yo and yo right back. Well, let's take a look. It is now, we're wrapping up 2024. And in the last 10 seasons, every single major league team has played in the playoffs at least once. At least once. And that's a good thing, I think. And in fact, now that I think about it, how many teams haven't at least advanced? I mean, okay, I guess the Reds haven't advanced, but like the Yank and the Orioles haven't advanced in the, no, they did. They advanced in, no, they didn't. No, I'm losing my mind. Okay. Well, that's not the point. The point is every single major league team in the last 10 seasons have advanced to the postseason at least once, with one exception: the Angels. The Angels, a team that has a tremendous fan base, that has a very big media contract, is nominally part of the Los Angeles sports scene. But I can tell you, I live here in Los Angeles County, okay? The Angels are an Orange County team, and Orange County is not small. And Orange County is not poor. And Orange County is baseball crazy. And it can suck in from Anaheim and Fullerton and Riverside and San Bernardino, all the parts of Southern California who want nothing to do with Los Angeles. And believe me, that's no small part of Southern California, which is one of the great ironies, is that this current ownership has christened the team the Los Angeles Angels because they wanted that aura of being part of a big market team. The fact of the matter is, they should have always been called the California Angels. That should they have always been their title. That should always be their name. I still think of them as the California Angels. That's who their identity is. But there you go. But last year, the Angels lost 99 games, one for every red balloon. And the Angels, the season began in a way that only the Angels could start a season. And I remember I was doing, as some of you know, I'm a teacher here in Pasadena, and I was doing a school field trip, and one of my teacher's assistants, actually two of my teacher's assistants, were rabid baseball fans. And I was checking on opening day, which is in Baltimore. And in the first inning of the opening day between the Angels and the Orioles, Mike Trout hit a home run off of Corbin Burns. And then that was the only hit the Angels got in the first 7 innings of the game. Burns pitched 6 innings, one hit, no walks, struck out 11. He allowed one hit, which was the first inning home run to Mike Trout. And despite getting that home run from Mike Trout in the first inning, the final score was 11-3 Baltimore. If that isn't a microcosm for the last decade of Angels baseball, I don't know what else is. Then Mike Trout showed up, Mike Trout had a great game, and the team stunk. Remember that this was a team that had Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani as teammates and couldn't post a winning record. Now let's take a look at 2022. In 2022, the last time Mike Trout played basically a full season. Just go there for 1 second, shall we? In 2022, let's take a look. The Angels seem to have everything going for them. I believe that was the last year that they had. Joe Madden was the manager. They got off to a great start, and Shohei Ohtani and Mike Trout combined for 58 homers. Mike Trout had a 999 OPS. Ohtani got his 34 home runs, his 875 OPS. He won 15 games as a starting pitcher and threw 166 innings as a pitcher. And despite that, the Angels finished 16 games under 500. And the last time they went to the playoffs was 2014. 2014. There are players on the Hall of Fame ballot who played in 2014. It's been a while. And of course, the ownership, Artie Moreno, has always been in the crosshairs of Angels fans for their anger and their frustration. But this offseason, the Angels seem to be trying something. They brought in Ron Washington last year after losing Shohei Ohtani, and after they handled Shohei Ohtani as horrifically as you could in 2023. I had said in that year, either sign Ohtani to a huge contract or trade him. They did neither, and they fell on their face. Well, they brought in Ron Washington, and in the end, Mike Trout only played 29 games. And at one point, it's like, yeah, you got no point in ruining this man's career. Now, you take a look at their team. Zach Neto was okay. Anthony Rendon, one of the worst free agent signings in the history of baseball, continued to be a Busterino. Mickey Moniak showed up. Remember him? He was a number 1 overall pick. He didn't really do much of anything. They brought in Tyler Anderson, hoping he'd be great. He actually wasn't bad. He wasn't bad. And then you had, they dealt away Carlos Estevez, and the rest of the team was just sort of patched together. What did you get out of Reed Detmers? What did you get out of Jose Soriano? Not a whole lot. Patrick Sandoval, 27-year-old left-hander, was non-tendered. So what's going on for Ron Washington's squad this offseason? Well, a shopping spree. And the Angels seem to be doing that thing I've been urging teams to do, which is put a major league player all over the place. Make sure there's a major leaguer at each position. And maybe you'll get a comeback season. And maybe you'll get what happened with the Royals, who lost 106 games in 2023. They picked up a couple of veterans, put a Hunter Renfroe here, put a Lugo there, put a Michael Walker there. And next thing you know, they made the playoffs, and they actually made it to the division series. So look up, and you see Jorge Soler. He's a major leaguer. I mean, he can be up, he can be down, but we've seen him be a major leaguer and a World Series hero. There's Travis d'Arnaud. Hey, check out Travis d'Arnaud. He's another guy with a World Series experience, won that ring in 2021. Last year played 99 games. You got a veteran catcher coming in there with World Series experience. You have Kevin Newman, They brought in him from Arizona, brought him on board. He's a major league infielder. No one's confusing him with Barry Larkin, but he belongs in the major leagues. And check it out, Kyle Hendricks, another player with a World Series experience, who last year had a horrible year for the Chicago Cubs, but the year before that wasn't bad. And in 2021, he wasn't bad. In 2020, he wasn't bad. They're hoping that his one bad, and it was a bad year he had last year. They're hoping that was a fluke because he's been a pretty steady pitcher in his 11 years in the major leagues, including a World Series win. They've been putting their chips, and of course, Soler, 2 World Series championships, was the World Series MVP with Atlanta, and last year bounced between San Francisco and Atlanta. Still has pop, hit 36 home runs in 2023 for the Marlins, helping them get to the playoffs. Hit 20 some odd home runs last year. He's a guy who has some pop on his team. But today they made a big move, a very risky move, but one that could basically basically could pay off in that Waka and Lugo for the Royals last year. And it'll be interesting to see how it pans out because it shows in a weird way that, hey, they're trying to do something this, well, turnaround season, at least one they hope is a turnaround season. All right, let's hear from our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So if you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you don't win your first $5 bet, or if you do win it. Very important. You got to win that $5 bet. Then you get your $150 in bonus bets. You follow? It's a live read. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. All right, Yusei Kikuchi was acquired by the Houston Astros down the stretch. He pitched wonderfully down the stretch. It was a big reason why the Astros overtook the Seattle Mariners to win the division. They wound up losing the division series, but I talked about the Astros just the other day, saying, "Hey, they still got a good team," and I assumed that Kikuchi was going to re-sign with Houston. Well, he signed a 3-year deal, worth $63 million tomatoes. And I don't like to always phrase deals based on how they help with the organization. But a 3-year deal for Yusei Kikuchi is a killer. I mean, if he has a good year next year, then you have him under control for the next couple of years. If he bombs out, then he's not here for a very long term. But Kikuchi had he had an interesting year. Now, Kikuchi, who was an all-star with the Seattle Mariners, came over to Toronto. They hoped he would solidify the Blue Jays rotation. His first year in Toronto, he was dreadful. And then last year, he helped pitch them into the playoffs. Pitched a bunch of innings, won a bunch of games. This year, the Blue Jays were an absolute mess. And when the Astros picked him up, and they sent, who did they send from? They sent 3 minor leaguers, Jake Bloss, Joey Loperfido, and Will Wagner. And each one of them has major league experience now. So they got 3 players in exchange for him. And he pitched great. He didn't pitch okay. He pitched great for Houston down the stretch, but he didn't get to pitch in the playoffs. But now he is over with the Angels. He is a major league pitcher. They've added 2 major league pitchers in Hendricks and in Kikuchi, hoping to replicate the Lugo Waka situation. And so now you take a look, as I mentioned, Newman, Travis d'Arnaud, Kyle Hendricks, Jorge Soler, Yusei Kikuchi. They're putting the chips all around the table. Kind of like what happened with the Atlanta Braves when they got absolutely devastated by injuries in 2021. They pick up Soler, they pick up Rosario, they pick up Jock Peterson, they pick up a couple other players, sprinkle them around the team, and next thing you know, with major leaguers at every spot, they won the World Series. The Angels aren't necessarily looking to win the World Series. Making the playoffs right now is a huge step in the right direction. That should be exactly what they're aiming for. Now they've spent a lot of money so far without breaking the bank in terms of a massive superstar on the team. But now the question turns to Trout. You need to put a team around Trout. You need to have a player. You need to have, obviously at one point they put a Hall of Famer next to Trout with Shohei Ohtani, but he took one look after saying, "Thanks for letting me prove to the world that I can pitch and hit in the major leagues. Now, if you excuse me, me and my dog, we're going to be heading up the 5 to go play for the Dodgers." But Mike Trout wants to be the greatest angel of all time. And statistically, he pretty much is. And between 2012 and 2019, he had one of the great runs in the history of baseball. If you look at if you like traditional stats, if you like advanced metrics, if you like the eyeball test, there was nothing he didn't do. He had every the sabermetric stuff that I can't tell you how to calculate. He has uh, bolded stats on baseballreference.com, the single greatest website in history of planet Earth, up and down, and the same or bold italicized in that stretch. But if you like traditional stats like runs scored, RBI, home runs, stolen bases, batting batting average, slugging percentage, he did great in all of those as well, and played great defense, both with the eyeball test, the Gold Glove, and metrics. He did all of it. But let's face it, he hasn't played over 120 games since before the pandemic. And don't look now, we're halfway through the 2020s. I know it seems like that happened last year. We've played 5 seasons since we found out about the COVID-19 virus. And only once did he crack 100 games. He played 119 games in 2022 and had a terrific season there. Thank you very much. He's played well when he's been healthy. Hell, he got 10 home runs last year in 29 games. He was going to be on pace for another 40 home run season or something like that. And if he stays healthy, he's going to clear 400 home runs this year. He's already at 378. So, yeah, a 22 home run season, and he'll be at 400 home runs. But the days of him being the dominant player in Major League Baseball are pretty much done. It's over. And the fact of the matter is, he is now in that position where he can't carry the team anymore. And it might be the time where you start looking at him and say, "Hey, Mike, do you own a first baseman's mitt? Do you? Do you own? We need to put you in a place where your body is not in harm's way." Look at, he is of his generation. He is certainly the best center fielder. He's the best player of the 2010s, but it's now the 2020s, and it might be time, as he's right now, he's 33 years old and has had 4 straight injury plagued seasons. It's time to say, "Hey, DH or first base." I'm not even talking about left field at this point. DH or first base. Right now, you are currently Paul Molitor on the Blue Jays right now. You're currently at that place where you're like, yes, we all know you're a Hall of Famer. We all know that you are the greatest angel of all time. We all know that you signed a contract that keeps you with the Angels basically until the heat death of the universe. But to be fair, it's until 2030. He's got this decade to win that ring and win it as an Angel. And yes, he gets paid $37 million last year to only play fewer than 30 games. But remember, it evens out because he put up basically had the high, if you like WAR, he had the highest WAR in the American League in 2012 and 2013 when he was making less than $500,000. So it pays off. It evens out at the end. But the great thing, one of the great mountains I want to see scaled. I'm not even an Angels fan, but I'm a Mike Trout fan. And I want to see Mike Trout in the playoffs. I want to see him in the postseason. He's played 3 more postseason games than me. He got it. He was part of the team. He won the MVP in 2014. And we've talked about there's a couple of times with one swing of the bat in extra innings, he could have turned the tide of that series against Kansas City. But he's no longer that player. And sometimes you have to say, hey, you're not that player anymore. Be this player. And then surround you with major leaguers. When they had Ohtani and Trout just dominating the league, all they had to do was put a mediocre team around them. Well, this is also, keep in mind, a vulnerable American League. There is no super team. There is no overwhelming team. And now removing Yusei Kikuchi from the starting rotation weakens the Astros just a little bit. Can the Angels outplay the Royals or the Tigers or the Guardians or the Astros for that matter? I think it's possible if things click. And step one is pick up major leaguers and surround Trout with them. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that a inevitable trade is going to take place pretty soon. And I'm not 100% sure why it's inevitable. Well, Garrett Crochet is the White Sox lone all-star from last year. Had a wonderful year with the White Sox. Was basically the one thing worth watching on the White Sox last year. Can you imagine how rotten that team would have been if they didn't have him on the team? The White Sox, of course, famously finished 41 and 121, which is good news for Mr. Venable, their new manager, because, good Lord, how could you possibly do worse? Now, Crochet pitched 32 innings, or pitched 32 games, had a good ERA, made the All-Star team, struck out 209 batters, 146 innings. And because he has some team control, he's not going to be a free agent until 2027. He's arbitration eligible now, and he's had the one very good year. And the White Sox are almost guaranteed to flip him. The rumor seems to be that he will be going to Philadelphia is the strongest rumor. The Red Sox are kicking the tires on him. Most teams could use an all-star starter. And maybe the White Sox are taking a look and say, hey, look, he's had one really good year. But, he was injured for all of 2022, was a good reliever. He was a relief pitcher when they won the division in 2021. And in 2023, they put him in the rotation this year, and he flourished. Maybe the White Sox are saying, hey, this could be a fluke. This could be a fluke, and let's get something for him now. But my question is this. How often do these trades work out for the team that's trading him away? I definitely know the answer, and I'm throwing this out to you here. Now, Crochet has one ace season. And maybe if they get a couple of good young players for him, the White Sox can start to build. But aren't ace pitchers one of the hardest things to find in the game? And if they have that, and the guy he's only 26 years old. And he's got to turn 26 in June, and he's under team control. What do you use him as a building block? And quite frankly, Tube U asked the right question. Will the Sox get enough talent for him? How often do these trades work? I mean, look, we saw Chris Sale win the Cy Young Award, and people mainly remember him with the Red Sox before that, but he was a superstar with the White Sox. And the White Sox did about as well as you could in that deal where they brought in, mainly it was Yohan Moncada on that squad. But I mean, they got a couple of major leaguers in exchange for Chris Sale. But in the end, they didn't get nearly the value of Chris Sale. And I think about all these times that ace pitchers get dealt over the years. The back-to-back years, Cleveland traded away Cliff Lee and CC Sabathia and didn't really get a great return. The Blue Jays trading away Roy Halladay. The Phillies trading away Cole Hamels. The Red Sox traded John Lester for Cespedes and wound up flipping Cespedes for Rick Porcello, who did win a Cy Young Award and help them win a World Series, but they would have been better off just keeping John Lester. How often do these trades work? You trade away a big star pitcher, and how often do you look up and say, oh, yeah, the return wasn't that great? It seems like it's most of the time. When the A's broke up their big three, I remember they trading away Mark Mulder and Tim Hudson. They did wind up getting Danny Herron, who was a good pitcher, but they got virtually nothing for Tim Hudson. You see this happen a lot. And I'm sort of racking my brain thinking about the times when the team says, we're going to get a bunch of prospects for a player. And almost inevitably you think, we just should have kept the player. I mean, the White Sox are going to be bad next year. And maybe they know something. Maybe they say, hey, here's a reliever who we put in the rotation, had a good year. Let's get something. Well, let's strike while the iron is hot. But you better get 2 or 3 building blocks, or at least one building block that is going to be a fixture in the south side of Chicago, or in the Loop, or in Nashville, wherever the hell the White Sox are going to wind up playing. But I'm always wary when they say, we got this star player, we're going to flip him for prospects. Teams are getting smart about their prospects. You're not going to see Ryan Sandberg thrown in a deal. You're not going to see Jeff Bagwell dumped in a deal. You're not going to see Hall of Famers just casually dropped in a deal anymore. People are smarter about who they have in their farm system and aren't going to give up their young prospects. And the White Sox, I think, are better if you're going to say, hey, they're the worst team in baseball history last year. Yes. But this is a vulnerable division, and things can flip pretty quickly. And it's a little bit of how could things be worse? And if the first thing you do is trade away a player you have under control, call me crazy. I wouldn't do it. It's going to happen, but I don't think it's the right move. I'm getting a bunch of questions and requests about Juan Soto and things like that from some of the readers. And quite frankly, there's nothing to report about Juan Soto. Juan Soto, and I've said this from the beginning, I said this during the season, Juan Soto will sign with whoever gives him the most money. And my position has not changed. But my position has changed on one thing right now, and then it's time for me to go to bed. So follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever it's called now. And on Instagram, I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Blue Sky, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Mom asked me what Blue Sky is tomorrow. Talking about the Angels stockpiling major leaguers and wondering if the White Sox should do the same. This has been Locked On MLB. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.